All right, what's up, guys? What's up, guys? Welcome to the 18 Strong Q&A this week. I know we've got all kinds of goodies to chat about. So everybody, thanks for joining us this week. Welcome, Rhino.
Yeah, thank you. Victoria Larson, looking good as usual.
Here we go. All right. Got Andy, Dave, Brandon. Welcome, everybody.
Brandon Johnson on the call. Very cool.
So hey, for just to start out, before I forget to do this, I know that last week we were talking, for anybody that's on the call that was on last week, we were talking about some hip internal rotation drills, and I mentioned one that I think was probably hard for you guys to visualize. So I was able to pull up the video, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here in a second. Let me just make sure I have the video ready. All right.
Make sure you close out all your dirty tabs.
Yeah.
Click on the wrong one.
All right. Can you guys
Yep.
see?
I can see your desktop there.
Can you see Adam Long here? This video or no?
It's not playing. I can see just a little thumbnail of it.
Okay. Let me change what I'm sharing.
There's something wrong here. I'm on the wrong group.
You're on the wrong group? Let me stop my share here.
Here, I'll message Andy.
And
well, maybe.
We're very tech savvy here at 18 Strong. Ryan is, I am definitely behind the times here. Okay, here we go. There's my man Adam Long. This is years ago. This is like 2015 maybe. But this is the drill that I was telling you about. If you guys can see, his right leg is anchored back on that squat rack there with his front knee up in the air. And so as he rotates there, can you guys see my cursor or no?
Yep.
Okay. So what I'm really wanting him to do here is keep this knee nice and straight. And then obviously he's rotating his trunk. You can tell he has very good mobility here. But I also like to see his pelvis turning towards the right side. So as he turns in that direction, he's getting a big stretch right here. And it's not just a muscular stretch, but if you do this, you're going to feel kind of a deeper tension. And that's going to be kind of a capsular stretch as well, which many of us have some tightness in the capsule of the hip there as well. So the key here is anchoring that foot back there so that doesn't want to kick sideways either way. Put a pad under your knee. And then I've got him rotating his shoulders with his arms across his chest. You could also do this with your hands straight out in front of you, kind of in a triangle, or holding on to like a medicine ball or something along those lines. But there's the drill there.
He moves like a pepper grinder. Like his base stays perfectly still, but the top he just kind of moves.
Well, that's the idea.
Yeah, just completely independent of the rest of them.
I'm gonna start calling that the pepper grinder.
Yes, finally, I get to put my stamp on something.
I like that. By all means, if you guys ever have a suggestion for a name of an exercise, I love silly exercise names because I think sometimes it's very funny how people get all bent out of shape when you call something by the wrong name. And so sometimes I'll do that on purpose, or we have names we've made up in the gym that, you know, I'm not necessarily a traditionalist or a purist when it comes to that kind of stuff, but
that's boring.
But hopefully that gave you guys a good visual there. And then I did pull up one other. Might as well give you this one too. If this is the one. All right.
Yeah, I like those traditionalist trainers. It's like the guys who get bent out of shape when you wear a hoodie on the golf course. Like, hey man, hoodies are fine now.
Yeah.
That's good enough for a Ryder Cup team. It's good enough for everybody else.
Yeah, Rory wears them. Everybody. Yeah, the whole Ryder Cup team, I guess. Let's see.
Haha, Marina, I do too. Marina put in there. I like the EFD for the daily motion mobility exercises. So every F can be whatever you want.
Yep.
Every freaking day, every flipping day, every
Whatever you want.
every
That's right.
fantastic day.
All right, so here's another good one that I don't think we have this in. No, we may have this in the program, but sometimes it's just fun to watch a PGA Tour player. So
Yeah,
you can
that's
see even he's got some wobbles in his legs there, a little more
Yeah.
solid on that side. See if we can see. So here, let me show you something real quick. And I apologize. Well, I guess everybody's watching this on video, so this isn't like the podcast. If I can scroll this a little bit. So what I'm looking at here is his knee position. You'll see that as he went into his lunge, his knee is angled. I know it's a little bit of the camera angle, but his knee is angled a little bit inward there. So that's something that I don't want to see. You can see his toes are almost pointing at me, but his knee is almost pointing in the inward direction. That's not a great position for your knee. It puts a lot of stress on the inside of the knee, and it actually is a sign of hip weakness. You're going to notice he kind of cleans it up a little bit there as he rotates. But watch this side. This side looks a little more stable. It's still a little bit of a flex in there. Cleans it up as he rotates out. I like that position of the knee way better. So as he came straight down, I would like to see his knee more in that position there. And I think it's fun to see these guys who are, at the pinnacle of the game. These guys have their flaws too. So it's not like these guys pass every single test we throw at them. So we'll go here again, pinches in a little bit. But this is a great drill. The kettlebell is a good way to just create even a little bit more stability and a little more core tightness there. Now, if when he got to this position, I could also have him then press that kettlebell away from his body, and that would light up his core. It would challenge the balance a little bit. So that would be a very high level move that you guys could play around with there too, if you wanted. So this is the old school gym. This is the one that flooded out. So this is a couple years ago as well.
You know what?
All
I
right.
wonder, you think he's better with his left foot because it's his front foot?
I know I am on my drills like that with my balance. I'm definitely better with my left foot forward. I think that has to do more with me planting on that foot from soccer. I'm a little bit more stable on that foot. But I know that a lot of golfers, a lot of guys that I see, their balance, guys and gals, their balance tends to be a little bit better unless they have an injury or something like that. Tends to be a little bit better on the front side of their, like if they're a right-handed golfer, their left leg. And I think it does have a lot to do with the fact that they're on that leg more unilaterally than they are the trail side. So even though we rotate into our backswing and the pressure tends to go more towards the trail leg, we're not standing only on the trail leg. Whereas when you rotate through to the front side, you're much more on that front leg. And I think that does play into balance. It also has to do with what your upbringing was sports wise, things like that, which I really do believe that for me, and probably you too, Ryan, left side, we're a little bit more stable. I have more dexterity and a lot more control, obviously, with my right foot, and in what we would call an open chain. So open chain is when your foot's off the ground. So like an open chain exercise for the legs would be like knee extensions where your foot is moving. Whereas a closed chain would be a squat where your foot is fixed and then you're moving around. So for me, my right foot leg has much more control, but my left leg has more is better with balance and stabilizing.
Yep. Yeah. Same for sure. The same thing with me, which could be from 40 something years of playing soccer, planning on the left foot all the time.
Yeah. Jumping off the left leg for anything, basketball, throwing, you're always rotating onto that front leg. So if you're a left-handed pitcher, it's probably your right leg. You're probably a little more dominant as far as balance and stability on your right side. So that's been my experience, at least.
Well, you've got some experience. All right. Cool.
What's going
So,
on?
well, it's this week based on your email transmissions. It's kind of turning into fat loss week, which leading up to the New Year's resolutions is not surprising that people are starting to ask questions about it. So yeah, I mean, I like it where I think what I like about what you wrote about was kind of the big thing is it's the long game, not trying to lose 10 pounds in a month or 15 pounds a month, because that's, I think the word we hear more often than anything is I need sustainable. And that ain't, all those, I hate to pick on P90X all the time, but I mean, obviously you can lose weight doing it, but good God, can you imagine doing that for the next 20, 30, 40 years of your life? I couldn't get out of bed every day.
Yeah. Sustainability is an interesting word because
Your favorite.
we go back and forth, and this was always a great conversation to have with our buddy Tony, which one of these weeks we need to get Tony back in on one of these Q&As, because he hates the word sustainability. But with the caveat, or with the asterisk that, when you say sustainable, you think not changing, you think like staying the same. And so in order to make a change in your weight, your body composition, your strength, whatever, you have to change something up. So it by definition, that's different than just sustaining what you were doing. Right. So, but to the point of the email, you have to think, you don't have to, but it's more beneficial to think long-term as opposed to thinking I have to do it all this month or next month. I am not opposed to doing some very difficult challenges. And obviously we're going to have something like that as we start the new year, but it's not simply for the fad or the crash diet. That's going to be more building habits, right? Building things that you can then sustain, or that you then realize what the benefits are of making a decision and sticking to that decision. In one of the emails, we talk about, what was the name of that? The metabolic diet.
Yep.
Where you and I, we're eating like meat and cheese for pretty
only
much, and veggies, right? That's the beauty, guys. Ryan and I have tried so many different stupid things, and we like to consider ourselves guinea pigs with science and sometimes bro science. But it gives us a lot of perspective on what works, what doesn't, and there are obviously crash diets will work for short periods of time, but then if you don't have that long-term focus, you're just going to go back to the same old habits. And so it's more about building the right habits and taking your time and doing the right things consistently over time, not trying to get so much done in so little time. I think it was Tony Robbins that says, we tend to overestimate how much we can get done in a month and underestimate how much we can get done in a year. And that speaks to the point perfectly. Like, we think that we can do all of this in such a short amount of time, but if we just go slow with minor changes, but stick to them, to that consistency, you can see some major change in, a year, 6 months, a year, 2 years. But then when you do it that way, it's that much harder to slide backwards, because you've done it the proper way. And that's, to be honest, that's the way that I look at like my lifestyle right now. I'm not doing anything super hardcore as far as diet's concerned, workouts are concerned, but I feel like I've done the right things for so long that, like, now what seems normal to me, just habit wise, eating wise, exercise wise, I think to some people, they would think like, oh my gosh, like you eat really, really clean or you exercise a lot. But to me, it's like, really, I'm kind of coasting right now. I'm getting ready to almost ramp it up a little bit. But once all of a sudden you start to think of your new normal, and those habits become your new normal.
Oh yeah, 100%. I feel like same way when you kind of change it, it's when you're getting ready for bikini season in January versus May, it's a little bit different. And I'm the same way. Like I have not really been focused on my diet at all, and my pants still fit just right, and everything fits just fine. And we've gone on a couple trips, you and I, where we probably had a few too many brews.
Never.
Never. Right. We've got the barn party, 40th birthday party coming up on this Saturday. I'm sure we'll overindulge in everything there. But then Sunday, I'll go walk for, a couple miles with Kendra and the dog and not eat like an idiot again. And
Mhm.
off we go.
Yeah. It's
So
just,
and I think that was the cycle. I forget what the number is that we talked about. Like the average person tries and fails. Like,
86.
is that what it is?
I think it's like 86 different diets in their lifetime.
in their life. That's crazy. But I get it because you watch the commercials and see the before and the after, and they're so damn sexy. It's like, why would I not do this? I'd be an idiot. But again, you and I have probably done 50 of them, 40 of them, whatever that number is.
We tinkered.
We've tinkered, and this
It's all
this
in the
is
name.
one that
It's all in
works.
the name of our crew, though. It's all to right.
It has nothing to do with wanting to look good in front of my bride and
Yeah.
the gals at the pool. It's all
What
about the crew.
do we have any questions? And first of all, anybody on the call? Any questions? I see Joni's on here. Joan Jurgens joining us
Yeah.
from down in Florida. We've got her on a strict regimen these days of some exercises.
Good.
But yeah, if you guys have any questions, fire them in the chat box by all means. Hopefully I know Marina had a chance to hear the latest episode with the guys from the Lost Art, which I just love chatting with those guys. So if you guys haven't listened to that episode, a lot of good things come from conversations with Carl and Gary. This was primarily about the short game, but it gets into so much outside of just the short game too. Marina, it seems like you might have something to say.
No.
I really like the podcast. You did really, really well. You had such good questions to them as well, because you got podcasts, and you as a sort of a person who interviews them, you're absolutely brilliant, because you get the best out of them as well. You get them to sort of elaborate on all these things. And what you do then after the podcast is even better, because you then put it out to the crew, and say, hey guys, this is really cool, because this stuff is really cool. And it's not only for golf, it's for life. It really is what they got to say. They changed my life. I got to know them 2017, these sort of principles. And it's changed all my attitudes. I would never have met you or, got into 18 Strong had I not listened to you on the podcast. I mean, that's changed me completely. There's several things, it's not only golf, it's brilliant. Everybody should listen to it and read the books. And the way you look at the short game nowadays, for example, I was playing there today, and you just change your attitudes and oh, why didn't I think about that in the past, So yeah, no, it was really cool. Thanks very much for the podcast. I really like it.
Absolutely. So do you play regularly out at Archerfield?
No. I'm down in the south of the UK.
Okay.
Gary's up in Scotland.
Gary's in
Archerfield,
Scotland.
so,
Okay.
yeah. No, my next lesson with Gary won't be till probably I booked it for next May. So
Okay.
I go there now and then up there. It takes me 10 hours to drive there, but it's well worth it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan, we need to make our European trip and get over to the UK and get over to Scotland, and we need to do a whole tour over there with all of our friends across the pond.
Oh, sold.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have tons of our crew, our UK folks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you could combine it with some strength. You could combine it with 18 Strong, do some sort of weekend with whatever, with the guys, and just combine the two.
Oh, don't think we haven't discussed doing some of that stuff with those guys. We've actually talked a lot about just the collaborative efforts, but to your point, like those guys, they have really kind of changed my mental attitude about, again, golf and a lot of other things. And I think, when I'm interviewing them, I feel like it's such a rare opportunity to be able to speak with two gentlemen that are so far along on the path of the mindfulness piece, the performance piece, and obviously the golf piece. That like I'm really just trying to ask them questions that I want the answers to, and hopefully the audience is feeling the same way. But yeah, just the way that they look at the game of golf not being so technical, not being so much about making the perfect swing, but like really identifying you as the golfer that you are, being appreciative, first of all, of being out in the situation that you're in, enjoying yourself out there while you're playing. But then, the idea of the art of it and the competitive nature of it, and being able to tie in, like I just love talking to them about the different games that they play. Like Gary was talking about playing the wrong club. I'm like, I've never heard that one, but I love it. It's like whatever shot you're going to hit, whatever club you would normally use, you have to use a different club. So then you have to be kind of smart, or you have to be a little artistic in the way that you use that club. Or, playing the 9 holes, the up and down, or par 18. I think it would be, and actually, Ryan, we should probably do this. Carl talks about playing par 18, which is basically, taking a ball off the edge of the green, chipping, and then putting in do it 9 different times from 9 different spots, but playing against somebody and having like a par 18 buddy. We should do that throughout the wintertime and just go somewhere and play, keep track of our par 18s, who gets the best of who. And then we'll be short game wizards by the time the season rolls around again.
Nice. Do I get any strokes?
No, you get 0 strokes.
Come on, I need some strokes.
No, this is all from the edge of the green.
That's not what I asked.
You get
I
0
think
strokes.
one of the things that they put so nicely is when they say you've got to be more childlike, not childish, which means if you're like a kid, you really have fun, and you go out and beat Ryan out there, and you feel really good about it, or vice versa, and you really sort of you put your focus on it, and it's great. I mean, that's what I really love, and you really enjoy what you're doing when you get more childlike.
Yeah, it puts some of that competitive nature in it, right? It actually puts a little bit of pressure on it. It's like when Ryan and I have gone and played so many rounds of golf, and we'll make a wager at the beginning, and then nobody ever pays the bet at the end, right? It's like $1 a hole or whatever, buy a beer at the end, but nobody ever pays up. But just like stating that ahead of time, having a little bit of something on the line, and it's really just kind of a pride thing. It gives you a little bit more intent on every shot or every putt or whatever. And so just going out and having somebody, because somebody sent a message back in Facebook, because I posted, what's your favorite short game to play? And this guy mentioned that, but he did it just by himself. He would go and play par 18 all by himself. And I mentioned that Carl had said, have a buddy, because then all of a sudden you're not just playing against yourself. Now you're playing against a buddy, and you've got a little bit more pride when you're trying to beat somebody else. And so it just gives you, the whole idea is make your practice as close to competition as possible. And there's no better way to do that than trying to go play against somebody and have a little bit of a rivalry or have a little bit of competition. And there's so many games that you can play like that, but that par 18 is a great one and very simple.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one. What's funny is when you watch any sort of sporting event, soccer, football, whatever, it's like the most times it's the guy that they're always talking about. It's like, oh, he looks like he's having the most fun out there.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a kid playing the game. Like, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. Why the hell are we so freaking serious all the time?
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes me way better when I do not play better mad at golf.
No, I've seen it. Neither do I. It just, then you just kind of give up, and then it's like ruins your day. But when you can go out there and just enjoy it, have fun, let loose a little bit, makes a big difference.
Yeah. So I put the link in the chat to the direct link to that podcast with Carl Morrison and Gary Nickel for everybody. If you just want to click on that, you can go watch it. Right. If you're watching the replay, it's episode 329, depending upon when you're watching this replay. Right now, it's on the front of the podcast. page.
Yeah,
but
we've had
it's
them
pretty easy
on.
to find.
I can't remember. It's been at least 3 times. I want to say even 4 times that we've had them on the show. And I mentioned in this past podcast, they and Ed Milet are probably the 2 podcasts or 2 groups of people that I mention the most as far as anytime somebody asks me what podcasts are really memorable for me or what podcast I would recommend people go listen to. Ed Milet is typically like the first one that it just sticks out as such a cool podcast. But I probably reference the guys from the Lost Art of Golf, just a lot of their philosophies more than almost every other guest on our show. Not to take anything away from the guests that we've had, but I just resonate so well with what Carl and Gary put forth.
Yeah, those guys are all right. Cool. Yeah. So we want to get to some questions. I see Elliot has one in the chat. Can you see that, Bodini?
Yes. And actually, Elliot, are you in the Facebook? I don't think he saw the video that I showed a little earlier. But Elliot, I showed that video of Adam Long that we were talking about last week. I also put it in the Facebook group. So if you're in the Facebook group, it's in there. So let me know if you didn't get a chance to see that yet. We can replay that in a few minutes here. And then as far as your question, do you have any suggestions to train kinematic sequencing? That's difficult to train, but I really like the stepping swings. Anytime we're doing like some overspeed, underspeed stuff, like with the super speed clubs, I think one of the simplest and best ways to work on kinematic sequence, for those of you that may not know exactly what kinematic sequence is, it's basically just the way that your body is moving during your golf swing. And so as we're starting the transition from the top of the backswing, you want your hips and lower body to kind of start that rotation. Then your trunk comes through, then the arms, then the hands. But what many of us do is we kind of get to the top when we start that little over the top move. And so what the stepping swings do, or even just, I've even had people grab a golf ball and just throw the golf ball into the net, or a Frisbee or anything, football, whatever it is. But anytime you go back and then you step, you get that little step going first. That's very much like your golf swing. And that's going to get the lower body moving first. And then that's going to let the rest kind of start to fire through. And then another piece that I learned from Adam Young, I think is probably the first time I saw it was, and Gary and Carl talk about this a lot too, is instead of focusing so much on, you and what you're trying to get your body to do, setting yourself up with a drill. And again, this is not my specialty is not as far as the sequencing of the golf swing itself. So like in golf drills, we'll do some stuff with cables and things like that, where we are kind of working on some getting the hips to turn and things like that, which I'll explain in a second. But setting up drills where whatever your intent is with the ball is what then makes your body and brain kind of organize your movements. So we talk about external focus versus internal focus. We talked about this on the podcast again last week. External focus is knowing that you've got the ball sitting there, knowing the mechanics of what you want to do with the ball. So if you want to create an in to out swing, you can almost take your brain. Adam Young would actually take a golf ball. I don't have a golf ball in here, but he would take a golf ball and he would have a nail sticking out of the golf ball. And he would turn the nail almost so it's kind of on that in to out path. If you can picture that. So the golf ball is sitting down in front of him. Let me grab a golf ball real quick. Talk amongst yourselves.
Dead air. What a great host he is. That's fantastic. Hey, so I also have, my son is, 11? And he and I were watching a PGA memes show, and it was Jason Day's house in Ohio and his I guess his training barn is what they called it. And it is awesome. So I'm going to put the link in here just so you guys, if you need to waste 20 minutes of your day, this is well worth it. Bodine, I don't know if you saw that.
I'm afraid of what Ryan's going to say.
Yeah, that tour, that PGA Memes did a tour of Jason Day's like compound.
Oh, I didn't watch it yet.
Oh, good
No.
God. I just want to live in his, what do you like training barn? I forget what they call it, but it goes out to a couple of greens and he's got a few bucks.
Yeah, definitely.
It's
Okay.
awesome.
All right. So if I have the golf ball here, Adam's golf ball would like put a nail through it. So forget this part on this side, but he'd have a nail through it like that. And then he would angle the ball. So if I had the ball right in front of me, he would angle it so the nail is kind of on that into out path. And then he would just tell his student, I want you to imagine yourself hammering that nail into the ball, almost like, you know, the whole swinging out to right field kind of a thing. But simply by doing that, then watching the video of that student from the first swing to the second, you know, if they have more of an over the top kind of an out to in swing, simply by changing the intent of what that student was supposed to do with the ball, their swing, their body reorganized, because all of a sudden they kind of knew the mechanics of what they had to do. And so their body changed sequence in order to do that. So I think in many situations, and I tend to do this in my swing too, get a little bit over the top. And I've really been working on this in our hitting bay of thinking about the nail drill and watching some videos. It's changed the way that my body sequences and the positions that I get in, but it's not so much that I'm thinking about what my body has to do. It's knowing the overall intent externally that then organizes the internal motions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do. That's like some of the best advice I got from our buddy Ted. It's like if you're throwing a baseball, the problem is with golf, you have too much time to think about what you're doing. He's like, if we're just playing catch, do you ever think about your release point or like putting your arm back or, you know, you kind of screwing around, throwing sidearm or like kicking a soccer ball? You don't think about it at all. You just do it. But it's like when we stop and address the ball, everything goes through our heads and we stop like being athletes for whatever reason. And I'm just as guilty as the next guy.
Well, I think that part of it has to do, it's almost like, I feel like golfers, all of us should have like a remedial introduction to the mechanics of the club and the ball and what it actually does. You know, like how do you make a ball go from right to left? How do you make a ball go left to right? Carl and Gary were talking about, you know, standing on the driving range, and rather than taking your alignment stick and putting it down in front of your feet to see if you're lined up straight, stick that thing in the ground 5 yards in front of you and see if you can mess around with trying to start the ball to the right of the stick and make it come back, stick it and, you know, try to make it start on the left of the stick and make it come back to the middle. And that's where you really start to kind of organize the pieces that will make the club and ball do what you want it to do. So rather than trying to do so many of these little position pieces and work on specific sequencing, sometimes it helps to just know like, okay, I want this ball to do this. I want to take this ball from right to left. You know, too many of us are used to that left to right kind of like flailing little golf shot, and that's just what we're used to, but don't necessarily know the mechanics of what it takes to create a bit of that draw. And I think if golfers knew that and understood that a little bit better, they would be able to organize their body movements a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So yeah, Elliot, yeah, hopefully that nail idea helps. And so Adam Young is who I learned that from. He's got a great golf blog where he talks about a lot of different instructional things. You know, Carl and Gary talk. I forget who it was. The name of the Gabrielle Wolf, I think, she's the one that did all of the research on external focus versus internal focus, and actually talked about the idea that many times focusing on the internal stuff is less than focusing on nothing. You know, because you end up trying to do so much and it doesn't end up producing the results that you want. So take that for what it's worth. I want to do a little more research on her and see if maybe that would even be an interesting interview for the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be all right. I wish I could remember the name of the, it's a PGA pro down in Florida who's been doing this for like 40 years. And he said they're basically like two components to your swing, not body wise, but like the direction that your club goes is one, and then the face. So that's the direction and that's the spin. He's like, it's really as simple as that. Now, getting the club to do both those things the way you want are different, but it's fundamentally a pretty simple thing that we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's
So-
primarily those combinations of, what's your path and then what's your club face. Then,
Yeah.
there's gonna angle of attack and all those things will come into play too. But really, if you get your path and your club face where you want it, the ball's gonna go where you want it to go.
Yeah, faux show.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does.
That's not my specialty.
No. All right. Yeah, I actually have a couple questions here that folks sent beforehand. So this anonymous, how do I manage exercises that might affect my swing mechanics, i.e., strengthening the wrong muscles? I wish I knew who put that in there, and I wish "wrong" was in quotes.
Yeah, there's not golf muscles. We've talked about that many, many times over. Muscles are muscles, joints are joints, tendons are tendons. There's movement patterns that sorry, I'm adjusting my camera. There's movement patterns that we work on. But ultimately, you want to just make sure that things are, as Dr. Andrea Ospina would say, make sure you get shit moving nice, right? Like just get everything
Okay.
moving, get your joints moving well, get your muscles moving well, be able to rotate, be able to stabilize, be able to do all of these things. I think people take too much stock in the fact that doing an exercise is going to completely carry over to what you're doing in your golf swing. And I have this every day of the week. I still work with clients every single day in the gym here, and they come in and they're like, just last night, one of my guys he's really working on his hip, wants to work on his hip turn. So he wants to do a bunch of golfish related stuff. And so we'll work on some things to get him in positions that end up helping stretch that. But again, it's not a direct carryover. Now, my intention, I'll let him kind of feel some swings. We'll even do some things I'll have him then hit some balls if he wants to hit some balls. But I know the intention of the different movements and exercises that we're doing. As far as strengthening the wrong muscles, obviously there's bad technique, there's bad things that you can do, but overall that's just bad exercises. When I think of strengthening the wrong muscles, I think of people that are doing, things like in a row or something, they're starting, like shrugging their shoulders, so it's basically improper form during the exercises. I don't really know that there's an exercise that I can think of that I would say like, oh my gosh, don't ever do that. That's going to totally ruin your golf game. But there are things that we do that maybe certain general trainers wouldn't do in their program, but we put them in there because we know that it's going to benefit your golf game. It's going to benefit your mobility. It's going to benefit your rotation, things like that. But strengthening the wrong muscles is.
Yeah, and years ago I probably would have asked the same thing, more based on I think a lot of times we mistake stiff for strength, like especially if you don't work out a lot and you do work out and then you feel stiff and then you don't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Or like it goes back to the bulky thing where I went to high school with a guy. I saw him years later and he was clearly taking steroids, and one of our buddies had to put his collar down because his arms were so big he couldn't reach his collar to do that. It's like, okay, now that's the wrong kind of strengthening if it's impeding your ability to move properly. But good God.
I guess, I don't want to totally discredit this question because, as I think about it, strengthening the wrong muscles, I guess would be like not emphasizing some of the things that we do emphasize for your golf game. So upper shoulder stuff, upper shoulder strength, glute strength. Like those are some of the big things that we work on. A lot of core, a lot of, mobility of the trunk. So if you are going in and you're just doing bench presses and you're doing, chest flies and you're working biceps and triceps, like, are those bad things to work? No, but if you're not doing a lot of the other things that we put more emphasis on, as far as postural strengthening, joint integrity, rotator cuff, ability for the hip to move well and stabilize well, then yeah, I guess you could be strengthening the wrong muscles or the wrong areas of the body. So that's a very valid point. But the way I initially took that question was from experience of what I've had in here. Like, I'll have somebody doing an exercise and they'll be like, "Oh, well, I don't want to do that in my golf swing," and I might have them like be rotating with a cable standing upright, and they're like, "Well, I don't do that in my golf swing." I'm like, you don't have to be in posture for every single exercise that we do. Like, learning to rotate with strength, you're building up your stability of the lower body. You're gaining more athleticism. You're gaining more strength. Your body is able to then adapt, and we will do certain things in posture, out of posture. But it's when people think that every single exercise has to, in some way, shape, or form, mimic something in their golf swing. That's when it goes way overboard.
So that could be the answer right there. So, we're always preaching, push, pull, hinge, squat, rotate. So I guess if you did the opposite of that and just did exercises that completely mimicked the golf swing, then you could screw yourself up. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't prescribe that program to anybody. That's for sure.
Right. Just devil's advocate. If you
Just do a bunch of rotational golfy looking exercises. Yeah, it's not going to do what you wanted to do. It's not going to build your strength, your stability. It's very single-minded.
Yeah, like if I always envision like a real heavy weighted club. If all you did was that, and then try to go out and play golf, you would really screw up your touch and your feel. And
yeah, you'll be slower too.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't make sense. Okay. All right. So, what is the best exercise for rotational power?
So rotational power, if we're going straight power, one of my favorite exercises would be a medicine ball throw. Simply because it's very much working on the sequencing piece. It's a very explosive exercise. We don't have this in, I don't know if we have this in any of our online programs, simply because I know that many people don't have a medicine ball on a wall that they can throw against, right?
Right.
So what we often use are the cables or the bands to do kind of a rotational pressing kind of exercise. So that's one of my favorites, as well as doing some sort of a rotational push. Either you can do that as kind of a straight push, because we're getting the rotation here. You can do that kind of, we call it a cross body press, where you're pressing across this way. But as far as a straight rotational power drill, it's going to be hard to beat a medicine ball throw as far as just the whole sequencing piece of it. Because again, much like a golf swing, when you have to let go of that ball, just like in a golf swing, you're hitting and you're rotating all the way around. When you have a band or a cable or something and you press, you still have all that weight that you're having to hold and stabilize, which is good. It's a great strengthening and stabilization exercise after that press. But to be able to throw something and let go of it, there's a lot of benefit to that too, because that's somewhat similar to what you're doing in the golf swing, letting it flow all the way around.
And that's like this one, right? Like an overhanded.
Yeah, my favorite is, like holding a ball. We've got some of those bigger, like Kevlar balls, and like kind of a crow hop and then throw, almost like pushing like a shot put. You can
Right.
also take it and do those as well. That's a great rotational drill. This one, you're going to be able to generate more power and force. This one is probably even more like your golf swing position. Like the footwork's a little bit more like a golf swing if you're kind of bringing it back and swinging it. But so both are really good. And when you're doing those, it's good to not do a ton of them. If you're really working on power, it should be done towards the beginning of your workout when your body's still fairly fresh. And you should only do 3-5 repetitions because you want to generate, the goal is generate as much power and force as you can. If you're doing 15, 20, 25 reps, that ends up becoming more of a cardio exercise as opposed to a power exercise.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got 2 more questions here. Again, guys, if you're on the call, please just go in the chat box if you have anything.
Oh, wait, before I forget, remind me before the end of the call to show you what's in this little tube. I got a cool gift today from one of my clients.
The unboxing video.
The unboxing, but I know Ryan, you'll really appreciate this thing. It's pretty awesome.
Are there 2 of them in there?
Nope.
Well, then I've lost interest completely. All right, so the penultimate question is, okay, so the off-season versus in-season training exercises, how do I should I change the intensity, volume, frequency, etc.?
Typically, yes. When you're in the off season, that's going to be, we kind of talked a little bit about this periodization last week. So again, it depends on, what your ultimate goals are during and off. But typically in the off season, we're going to end up doing some heavier strengthening type stuff. So, you're going to possibly go a little bit lower on your reps. You're going to go a little bit heavier on your weights, and then and you're going to work on building strength. So often we'll do some bigger exercises too, squats, pull-ups, deadlifts, things like that. And then once you're in season, you want to make sure first and foremost that you're moving a lot, that you're sticking with a lot of the movement-based stuff. Your exercises won't be nearly as heavy focused as far as strength-wise. Typically, we'll end up doing a little bit of power type of stuff. So again, some of those explosive drills where the weights won't be quite as heavy. That's a good time to be doing some medicine ball stuff and those type of things. And then again, most of the people that are on our calls and listening to our show are not, professionals that are working in season, where it's their livelihood. So many of them are going to have different goals throughout the year. Like we were talking about, fat loss goals or strengthening goals, those kind of things. So you want to just make sure that whatever volume you're doing, whatever intensity you're doing, it's not affecting you the rest of the week or when you're playing or when you're practicing. So typically, we're not going to be doing during the season or when you're close to a match or an event or something. You don't want to do something that's going to make you really, really sore either. So we're not going to do a ton of volume. We're not going to do a ton of what we call eccentric exercises. We talked about those a little bit over the last couple of weeks. Eccentric being more the lowering, or when your muscles are lengthening in an exercise, that can get you really sore. So we'll stay away from some of those things. But yeah, typically the off season is going to be when you're trying to build more of the strength. And if you're playing a lot during the season, in season is going to be a little bit more of what I would call kind of maintenance, making sure that you're staying very, very mobile. You're still working on some stability stuff. You're making sure if you have any injuries or injuries that you're prone to, that we're really kind of prehabbing or rehabbing, making sure that we take care of those kind of things.
Very good. So then Elliot has a question here. What do you do to correct valgus? Is it valgus? Is that how you said?
Valgus. Yep.
Valgus knee and a med ball toss. So that's just knock knees, correct?
Yeah. So when we were looking at that video of Adam Long earlier, when his knee was pinching in, that's a valgus moment. So his knee moving inward, going outward would be a varum, VARUM. And the way that I remember that, like your supinate and cup of soup, I think of Verum is like sticking a drum in between their knees. It would go around. Verum and drum. It's just the way my brain works.
I'll
So
buy it.
let's see, Elliot, when you're talking about, and if you're on here, if you want to jump on the audio, by all means, you'd have to describe what type of med ball toss you're doing. Is it more of a sideways? Is it more of a kind of a straight on push? And if you have any insights there, that would help. One thing that you could do is again, I need a full screen here. I need to be able to stand in front of this. If let's say my left knee is the one pinching in, is that what you're talking about, Elliot? Like if my left knee was pinching in as I'm getting ready to throw, because if that is what you're talking about, you could wrap a band around sideways on the loading phase. So sideways on the loading phase would be more on my right knee then, correct? So we've got to, let me think about this a little bit. That's not typically something that I would see. Usually on the loading phase, I would see them rolling out into more of a varus position. I almost kind of want a little bit of a feeling of a valgus position there. If you're picturing me going into a backswing, it's really easy to let that knee bow outward. I'm trying to think of why they would be letting that knee pinch in on that trail leg. But let me talk about the front leg again, because many times we'll see in a golfer when they're loading up. Let's see. Okay, maybe he is talking about the front leg. As they're loading up, that front knee kind of bending inward. Does that make sense? Almost think Jack Nicklaus when he would come up to the top and his knee pinches in. What you could do is wrap a band around, let's say this is the leg, wrap it around the leg, pulling from this side. And that way they have to hold that band this way a little bit as they're loading up. So that's going to force them to keep, because the band's going to want to pull that knee this way, if that makes sense. So as they're loading this way, that band's going to want to pull them this way. So they have to fight that band, pull their knee out this way a little bit, and then you can work on throwing from there. Again, this might have to be a video that I shoot or find, because that was a terrible description. But hopefully if you guys understood that a little bit.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, Elliot,
So,
I got a clap from Elliot. So
all
we're
right. So
There
something
we
must have gone right there.
right.
No, that was good. Yeah, we're gonna have to get a wide lens for the office there.
Yeah, I'll just kick everybody out of the gym. We'll just do this out in the gym.
Perfect. All right. So last question, and it is a very open-ended question. How do I minimize injury?
By preparing yourself. Prepare yourself ahead of time. So when you go out on the golf course, you're already warmed up. Your body's already ready for the stress that it's about to undergo. And that, to be honest, this is the mission of 18 Strong, is to ultimately prepare you for everything, not just golf swing related issues, but everything else you do. I can't tell you how many people, golfers, are injured, but it's not because of a golf swing. It's because of something they did at home. It's because of myself. 2 weeks ago, I was running, preparing for our trail run, and tweaked a calf muscle. It's like that had nothing to do with my golf swing, right? And then the hardcore golfers would say, well, stop running. And in many cases, I agree with that. But there's so many things that we injure ourselves, or we hurt ourselves, or we just put ourselves at risk, sitting at a desk all day, all of these different things are ways that we're going to hurt ourselves or injure ourselves. So that's why everything that we do is much more on a global scale of making your body move well, making your body strong and stable in all different aspects. And it's not just about how to improve your golf swing, how to, get a better turn, how to do all these different things. We want you to be better moving human beings that are able to perform your golf swing freely, with power, with speed, with accuracy, but also without pain. And the way that we do that is we also don't let you get hurt the other, 20 hours of the day that you're not golfing. So that would be my suggestion. How to not get hurt. Do the Golf Body Blueprint. That's my short answer.
And buy it at full price, please.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's funny. Like, how many guys, and I did it a couple years ago. Like our buddy John Yealing, he threw out his back. I know it's not really a thing, but whatever that phenomenon is, picking up a sock off the laundry room floor.
Yeah.
He's like,
it happens at the weirdest times. And, no matter how well prepared we are, we're all going to suffer something. But the more prepared you are, the less often it happens, and the less intense it's going to be as well. You're going to be able to bounce back from it a lot quicker if your body's well prepared. All right, are you ready for the big unveiling?
I am ready.
All right. So I was at a client's today, and he said, "Hey, I got something for you," and he pulled this thing out. It is. I'm not going to show you the bottom, Ryan, but do you know what course that is and what hole that is? Little tip. We just played this course.
I would imagine it's Sweetens or Sewanee.
Sweetens Cove.
Oh, I'm going to say, I'm not very, very good at this game. Hole number 4.
Wrong.
3. I can't see that.
Sweetens Cove, hole number 2. It's called the Tupac bunker. Remember that bunker right in the middle of the fairway?
So
number 2.
So number 2 is that? So
it's after number 1.
I can't curse on this thing, but I would like to. Does that go the same direction, and then number 3 turns hard right? Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
So goes 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so 2 does.
Anyway.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This
I did know
is.
that. I only played it 10 times.
This is a watercolor by Lee Wabransky, and he does all of the famous like US Open. He does like a bunch of US Open watercolors. I think he probably does a lot of other majors. So my client in his office, he's got like these huge watercolors, and so he was ordering another one for his office, and he saw Sweetens Cove on there and said, "Hey, I think this would look good in the studio." So,
I think he's
we'll
right.
get this bad boy framed up and hung on the wall here one of these days.
Sooner rather than later. I think it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
It was awesome. So, anyway, anybody else? Last minute question. I know I've got a client that probably is walking through the door right now, but anything before we go?
No, I think we're good. 16 more, I guess 15 more shopping days.
Yeah.
Get on Amazon now.
Well, wish Ryan and I a happy trail run on Saturday, a pain-free, injury-free trail run, and we'll celebrate afterwards.
It's supposed to get it good and soupy for us.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like mid 40s, I think. So won't be too warm, won't be too cold though. So we should be good.
I'll take that.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you guys all next week.
All right. Adios. Thank you.